Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, part 2 of student internships in the virtual space. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us. My name is Rachel Hegland, and I am the Program Associate in the Department of African and African Diaspora Studies. And I'm joined here by my colleagues and co-host Amy Orndorff, who's the Administrative Program Specialist in the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies, and Christine Wolf, who is Assistant Director of Global Studies and International Studies. For today's webinar, we have the unique opportunity to hear from employers who are looking for part-time interns at their organizations, as well as 2 current students from Global Studies who had virtual internships this past summer. And they'll be sharing their experiences on working remotely with us. So before I introduce our guest speakers, I'd like to cover just a few housekeeping topics. We ask all attendees to introduce themselves in the chat and just let us know what brought you here today. If you're interested in interning in a specific organization, or if you're just trying to get an idea of what opportunities are out here. And then also let us know what your major and minor is. If you're undecided, just let us know what you're considering. And then next, we'll be holding the Q&A session at the very end. But if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A or chat box at any time, which is located at the bottom in your Zoom control panel. And then we'll be sure to pose your questions to our guest speakers during the Q&A session. Lastly, today's webinar is being recorded, so if you need to leave at any point, no worries. I will share the recording link with all of you today so you can revisit the content and share it with your fellow students. And we'll share that by email as well as on our respective programs and departments web pages. And so with that, I'd like to invite you to welcome our guest speakers. For the employer panel, we have Gerard Blanks, who is Cultures and Communities and Black Lens Director at MKE Film. And then next we have with us Dr. Angela Rose Black, pronounced she, her, hers, who is a well-being and capacity strategist at Ubuntu Research and Evaluation. And finally, Anna Klenowski, who is the volunteer and intern coordinator at 16th Street Community Health Centers. For the student panel, we have Alexanutson, who recently interned at Five Forks, located in Chicago, as well as Sophia Butcher, who recently interned at Sherpa's Ride, headquartered in Prague in the Czech Republic. So again, welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us today. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to our first presenter, Gerard Blanks, who will discuss internship opportunities at MKE Film's Black Lens program. Gerard, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Rachel. Do you have access to that presentation?
Yep, pulling it right.
I prepared a little presentation. Actually, this is something that is, it's something that I give to anyone that I am a visual learner and thinker. So I love pictures and images with text. So whenever someone says, hey, can you send me some information? I'm one of those people to be like, sure, just give me a second so I can throw some photos in a thing, right? That's just how I do it. So anyway, I created this really simple sort of PowerPoint presentation that I can give to anyone, so anyone interested can have it. And it just takes you through the basics of what we're kind of looking for at Black Lens in an intern. So let's start with slide 2. What is Black Lens? For those of you that don't know, Black Lens has been around for about 6 years. We started in 2014. And it's interesting because it's a little confusing sometimes for people. They may know Milwaukee Film, they may know the Milwaukee Film Festival, but then trying to understand sort of how Black Lens is situated in that sometimes can be confusing. We are not our own festival. We are simply a program within the larger organization of Milwaukee Film, and a program, a film program or film series within the Milwaukee Film Festival. But we also do programming outside of the Milwaukee Film Festival throughout the year. So it gives you a sense of what we do. We're really dedicated to providing a platform for Black filmmakers around the country. The idea is we want to bring as many African-American filmmakers to the city to show their work and to network with our community. And we want to introduce our community to all of these wonderful Black creatives from around the country. So that's really the purpose of Black Lens, is to support Black creatives, but also to provide representation. People want to come and see films that they relate to, and you want to see yourself embodied on screen. So that is Black Lens in a nutshell. Our mission's really simple. We just want to strengthen bonds and dialogue by hosting critical discussions and social events around film screens. Okay, this particular event was one of my favorites. It was a discussion on hip hop after a film we had brought called Word is Bond. So this is what we do: we show films and we talk about them. That's it. History, we started in, like I said, 2014, but a lot of people found out who we were in 2017 when we brought this handsome young man, Lorenz Tate, to town. He was a part of the 20th anniversary celebration of a really important film in Black culture called Love Jones. He is the star and really a legend because of that film. And we brought him to town. We showed the film. As you can see, all the seats are taken up. It was almost 900 people in our theater to watch the film with him and talk with him afterwards. We've hosted, really renowned filmmakers like Stanley Nelson, Milwaukee native George Tillman Jr., and others. And we also host a ton of events. Again, we show films, but we also are all about that social engagement piece. So we have a music series called Groove Theory, where we connect music and film, right? So we've done a few events, concerts basically, where we had a band do, the greatest movie soundtracks of the 90s or whatever, right? We also have an event called Black Love Through a Black Lens. And that is a film screening and discussion series that's all about highlighting and showcasing Black love and joy. One of the most important things I think for people to realize is that Black Lens, we are about the work of Black creators in all forms, right? In all visual forms. However, it is really important for us that we are showcasing films that not only talk about struggle and strife and challenges and overcoming obstacles, but also what it the joy and beauty and wonderment that it is to be Black, and all of the love and joy that we take from our culture. So, all right. So let's get down to the really important stuff. We are looking for an intern or interns in our community sort of outreach portion or division of Black Lens. I call it a community outreach coordinator. Really looking for university students that would love to get college credit and get real pay to come work with us. We think it's a great opportunity to, develop your skill set, add to your resume, and get real life work experience. So it would be, obviously in this time, it would be sort of a hybrid position. We are located downtown. You can go to the next one. Yeah, we're located downtown, just a few blocks from the Fiserv Forum. I forgot what that area is called. It's PAPS something. Anyway, that's where our offices are. And eventually we will get back to life in the office. But right now, everyone's virtual. So this would probably be a bit of a hybrid position. For now, it would be virtual. You'd work from home, but at some point you would transition to the office where we work. And the hours, can be very flexible and accommodating to a school schedule. That's why I really think this is a perfect opportunity for students. Yeah. So quickly, I'll take you through a few of the duties before my time is up. And in these last few slides, again, I can send this to anyone and you can kind of go through it, but I'll just basically lay it out as, maybe three sort of areas that you should really concentrate on. And one is community, obviously. Getting out, meeting people, developing relationships and partnerships with community stakeholders, with other organizations. That's a big part of what we do, and what a community outreach coordinator would do. Second is programming. You would be directly involved in the programming, doing research, developing a database, helping us to make decisions about what films and events to do. And I think finally, the last piece of this is really thinking about how you can develop Black Lens in terms of our expansion, but also how are you developing your skills? So I think the third part of this is us working and mentoring you to develop your skills in whatever sort of field, whether it's related to your major or industry you're really interested in going to, build your career around. So, like I said, I will make this available. Actually, Rachel has this as a PDF, and I think this is a really simple way to get a sense of what we're looking for. Feel free to contact me. My email is as a part of this presentation. Rachel has it, and any questions or concerns, just direct them my way. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Gerard. And again, yeah, we'll share everyone's contact information. We have a slide at the end with everyone's emails, and then we'll include that in our email with the recording at the end. And then next we'll hear from Dr. Angela Rose Black from Ubuntu Research and Evaluation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Angela Rose Black, and I am a strategist at Ubuntu Research and Evaluation here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I am pleased to share with you today our internship opportunities. I want to tell you a little bit about Ubuntu Research and Evaluation first. We are a team of unapologetic Black women working as transdisciplinary strategists to disrupt systemic oppression. So what that really means, transdisciplinary strategists, is that we represent a vast, vast list of disciplines and trainings that have sort of converged here on this moment to form Ubuntu Research and Evaluation. We have folks with backgrounds in public health, social work, peace building, family studies, mind-body medicine. So really just a lot of different areas, public policy, education, critical Black studies, to form this amazing firm where we engage clients all across the country on issues of equity work. So in terms of our internships, we have two key opportunities. Both of them are roughly about 8 to 10 hours a week for about 15 weeks. It is 100% remote through June 30th, 2021. Until the world opens again, we are taking all of the precautions and working at a distance. You'll be supervised by one of our strategists. We have a team of 7 currently, and the compensation for this program beyond just learning from Black women is academic credit. So if we'll scroll down, I can leave you with the information on our background and how we come into this, and we'll focus on the 2 key opportunities. The first being virtual communications internship. Essentially, we are looking for some capacity building on how we are engaging in this virtual work environment. In order to sort of position yourself for this internship, we're recommending a reading, Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. And your responsibilities, there are a few. Build out our social media on multiple platforms, review and assess the utility of virtual learning platforms, because we are really deeply interested in how we can utilize this unexpected moment to pivot in some virtual platforms. Create a resource list of virtual communication resources and strategies. Also, any magic that you might possess as it relates to digital formatting and graphic design, bring it on over here. We welcome that. And then curating digital content that might include videos or other webinars. So that is, again, our virtual communications internship. Our second opportunity is a research internship. And the research internship is designed, again, to be anchored by the Emergent Strategy book by Adrienne Marie Brown, meaning if you're interested in one of these internships, it'll be really important for you to have that text, get to know that text, because we really do operate from an emergent strategy approach. In terms of the research internship, your key responsibilities would be to conduct content analysis of any diversity, equity, and inclusion requests for proposals. So there are RFPs, as they're called, that come in, weekly. And those RFPs typically ask for the same things. And we would like to have more of a stealth approach. Like, let's see, what are the the common things that all of these RFPs are asking for, and how can we align our next steps in that direction? Developing annotated bibliography is another key aspect of this research internship, with the focus topics being anti-Blackness, racism, and racial justice. Literature reviews on assigned topics, researching local Black policies. That's very, very specific, local to Milwaukee and Milwaukee County, and pertaining to the lives of Black families and communities. And then finally, creating readers on specific topics such as restorative justice, racism, and education for liberation. Should you find that you're interested in learning more, knowing more, we've linked our application here in the summary of the internship. If we could just get a quick click on that application so you get a sense of what you might need to be prepared in order to apply. Thank you, Rachel. So as you can see, it has some fairly basic information at the top, email, what position you're applying for. As you scroll down, you'll note that beyond the basics, we're really looking to get a sense of what your social media handles are. So being mindful of what your digital footprint is, learning about your academic interests, what brought you to Ubuntu. And as you scroll through further, you'll note that there is a question here where we are asking, like, tell us about a Black woman or film that you've learned from. Because we recognize that while both of these opportunities may be unique and dynamic in their own right, we're also curious about your engagement with Blackness, your comfort with engaging Blackness, and what that journey has been like. So again, my name is Dr. Angela Rose Black. I'm a well-being and capacity strategist with Ubuntu Research and Evaluation. Should you be interested, we have this application here with also the summary of our opportunities. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Black. And then next we will hear from Anna Klenowski from 16th Street Community Health Center.
Oh, thank you. Yes, my name is Anna. I am the intern and volunteer coordinator for our social determinants of health patient screening project. That was a lot of words, so I'll break that down a little bit for you. But first, just to give a little bit of general information about 16th Street. So 16th Street is a federally qualified health center, which means that we serve patients regardless of a person's ability to pay for services. We serve around 40,000 patients annually. And as our name implies, we started around 50 years ago on 16th Street on Chavez Drive. But since then, we've expanded to several other locations, and primarily for this internship position, we work out of the Chavez location on 16th Street and our Parkway location on 20th Street. I'll tell you a little bit more about how this hybrid opportunity of virtual and in-person components works, but some important information about our patient demographics are that in our clinic, one of the important things that we try and do is serve patients in the language they're most comfortable with. And actually 70% of patients prefer to be served in a language other than English. And 86% of our patient demographic is Latinx. And so most of that 70% ends up being patients who prefer to be served in Spanish. For that reason, one of the important requirements of this position is that the intern is comfortable speaking at least a conversational level of Spanish. The focus of the position is not as much a Spanish language learning opportunity, but rather a social services and healthcare lens that we try to provide to patients. For the internship itself, so the title of it is Social Determinants of Health Patient Screener. The social determinants of health is the foundation of the position, and although it's kind of a long name, what it essentially is describing is that we know that there's so much more to a person's health than just what goes on in a traditional doctor's appointment where you have a scratch on your arm and you go in and the doctor looks at that scratch and prescribes you medication and you head home. You know that the social components of a person's life, so all of the other activities and identities of a person also play into one, the accessibility of healthcare services, and two, are part of healthcare in and of themselves. So whether a person has adequate housing or is able to get transportation in order to get to a doctor's appointment in the first place, all of those things are a part of healthcare. So when we address housing, we address healthcare. When we address food shortages, we address healthcare. I'll talk a little bit more about social determinants of health in the training of this internship position. But it really is sort of the central language that we use for the internship. The patient screening part is the how. So if social determinants are the what, patient screening is the how. Prior to the pandemic, of course, we were using an in-person model in which our patient screeners were working alongside our clinical teams, our provider teams on the clinic floor to screen patients for social determinants of health needs in the actual appointment. Of course, that has shifted since the pandemic came our way. But what we decided after a few months of pausing the program is that social resources, having access to those, is something that's perhaps even more important now for many people than it was prior to COVID-19. So with that in mind, we've restarted the program in sort of this hybrid virtual and in-person model that we're using now. So we ask interns and volunteers to come into the office in order to have access to limited patient information in order to continue making contact with patients, but we're no longer seeing patients in person. So the in-person component is coming into the office, having access to the resources needed to do the screenings, but we're screening patients virtually now, either on via phone or as a video chat. That is the primary and central component of the internship, is this patient screening process. But with our interns, there are also opportunities to be contributing to other meaningful projects within the social services department. Some of those could include data analysis of the information that we've collected in order to better know what the needs of our patients are. And process improvement of the project or resource updates and compilations. One thing that has really been different in the pandemic is that all of the community partners that we work with to provide patients with resources have changed their hours, have changed their models of business, have changed the services that they provide in order to better meet the needs of the community right now. So all of that is information we need to keep on top of, and that's where we rely on interns and volunteers to help us with that. The time frame for these shifts for our patient screening is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's the schedule that we see patients around. And so those are the hours that we're available to do patient screenings. We do have opportunities for for multiple interns and volunteers starting in January. We accept interns on a rolling basis as we continue expanding this program. If you are interested in applying, my contact information is in the program description that I've sent to Amy. And so please let me know. Please reach out if you have any additional questions or if you'd like to learn more about the process for applying and getting accepted into an internship position. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna. And thank you again to Dr. Black and Gerard. Again, attendees, if you have any questions for our employer panel, please type them right now if they're in your head or at any point. And then next we'll move into the student panel. And first we'll hear from Alexanutson.
Awesome. Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So I'm going to talk about my student internship this past summer. A little bit about me. I'm a senior in the Global Studies program. I am on the security track. I studied abroad last summer in Italy. This semester, I'm finishing up my study abroad credits with the virtual study abroad. And then summer, I completed my internship. So I did kind of a mix of everything on what is required for us. So I want to start actually talking back in October of 2019. That's when the State Department released their student summer internships for this summer of 2020. I applied to be an intern abroad in Italy with the State Department, and I interviewed and I was selected for the internship by December of 2019. And then by January, I was in the process of submitting a security clearance. And then by April, due to COVID, it was canceled. So I did lose an internship, unfortunately, but of course it opened up new opportunities. And this is something I'm sure you'll hear with a lot of students within the last year or so with internships and COVID. So it's definitely a unique experience for everyone, and that's okay. So after I lost the internship, unfortunately, I was kind of nervous. I didn't really know what to expect. I did utilize a lot of the resources that Christine does send to us in those Monday minutes, which is awesome. I had found another internship that I applied for and unfortunately did not get that as well. So by this point, it was early May, I think, of this year. And I had moved back home to Chicago, where I'm originally from. And I was talking to my dad and I was like, hey, I really need an internship. And my dad works for the government. He is an Army. He's a major in the Army, as well as works with Accenture, which is another government consultants agency. And so I used my network. That's a really important thing that I would suggest a lot of people do. And he actually had one of his really good friends who was my supervisor in this internship with Five Forks. So he reached out to his friend, was like, hey, Alex has open time to work for you. These are just the requirements that she needs to meet. Let's figure something out. And so next thing I know, I'm working with Five Forks. So Five Forks is a basically another consultant company. It's small, up and coming. And what they do is they help other small companies that want to work with the government. So they kind of, make or bridge that gap. So my job I was a research intern. So I did a mix of a lot of different things, whether it was researching for myself, just how, to conduct like business development strategies or to go about contracting and how that works, as well as helping Five Forks find companies to work with. So that was a big part of my job, is researching these companies and creating investor notes, which is basically telling that company, here, this is what your company's doing. This is a highlight of it, and this is how we think we get into government work and contracting and things like that. So a lot of my job was also creating those investor notes. Throughout my internship, I found about 5 other companies for Five Forks to work with. I think 3 of them we are now in contract with and helping them in the process of, again, bridging those gaps. So that was a big deal for me. Another really great thing about this internship that I had was they understood my kind of interests and wants and needs out of this as well. So I was able to kind of do things on my own. So something I'm also interested in is, as a global security track major, I'm really interested in the migration and immigration of people. So they gave me resources to kind of do my own research on that. So I was using data analysis platforms, kind of like geospatial analysis, things like that. And I was able to create my own little mini map of immigration patterns from Africa to Italy. I'm also a double major in Italian, so that's another interest I have as well. So I was really able to incorporate kind of everything that I'm interested in, not just with my studies, but with this internship. So I did have kind of added, personal approaches to my internship, but again, the result of it, like I said, plays into what I want to do with my career after I graduate and things like that. So some tips I have for working like virtually, or some advice I would give, it definitely is hard not being in person. All of my calls with my supervisors were either over the phone or on Google Meets. So, and because I know Brandon, who's my supervisor, like I've known him, since I was little, it's weird to not see him, right? As someone as I've known for so long. So it's definitely an adjustment, but it's also, again, you're gaining skills that, maybe not a lot of people will have. You're able to navigate the virtual world a lot better, whether it is, virtual calls or just emailing a lot more, and just kind of, you're gaining a better fluidity of the virtual world. Something that I personally gained from this internship was actually my decision to go to grad school. I never really thought of it beforehand, but with this internship, I was like, you know what, I really, really want to continue with my studies and actually bringing more of a focus into my work and what I want to do. So that was another big personal gain that I got out of this internship. And so I'm actually hopefully going to be going to graduate school in Italy next year. With COVID. We'll see how that goes, but I do have a couple other options. So, you'll never know what you're going to get out of some of these experiences. And it's definitely, it's going to be unique for everyone. And I just say, embrace it. Don't be scared of it. We're all going through this together. I think that's something important for us to understand and realize, we're all experiencing not necessarily the same thing, but this is all new to us, and working together is really gonna, alleviate some of those stresses and concerns. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I did. Here on the page, we have our website, our LinkedIn. If you want information, the info at Five Forks is really great. And that last one is my own personal email at Five Forks. So if you're interested in more information, please feel free to reach out. We are hopefully going to be looking for more interns. We did lease out kind of an office space in the Chicagoland area. So if you are here and would like to intern with us, that is something available to you, or again, staying in the virtual space. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Excellent. Thank you, Alexandra. It's very helpful. And then next we will move into a presentation from Sophia Butcher. Sophia, welcome.
Hey everybody. Unfortunately, I do not have a lovely PowerPoint to show you, but so you guys are just going to be stuck with me. But I'm Sophia. I am currently a senior in the Global Studies program here at UWM with a focus in communications and French language. And much like Alex, I think you'll sense some common themes in our experiences. My virtual internship experience was pretty unique just due to the fact that it happened during a global pandemic. So to start at the beginning, I was originally set up to have an in-person internship experience in Dublin, Ireland this past summer of 2020. However, due to some travel restrictions that had to be put in place because of COVID by UWM, I sadly had to cancel that one. So that was a little bit of a bummer. Definitely had to acclimate, change expectations. which is, going to be a common theme I think you might notice me saying, but just, be adaptable. So I got home. I was actually studying abroad in person in Paris, France during spring 2020. And that shifted into a virtual study abroad experience when we got sent home due to the pandemic. So I got home, had to cancel my internship, was bumming a little bit about it, but luckily, and I'm so grateful for this, we have the wonderful Christine Wolf in Global Studies that was going out of her way to send every single virtual internship opportunity that came across her desk to us students in the Global Studies department. So I was a little bit nervous because I knew that I really needed to complete my an internship this summer. So I was keeping an eye out on all the information that Christine was sending to us, and I came across an opportunity through a study abroad provider called the European Study Abroad Center. And they were doing this, just really unique opportunity that exists as a result of unprecedented times, as we all like to say. They were offering 10 placements in virtual internship positions free of charge. Typically or I shouldn't say typically, but often study abroad providers, they do cost money, but they were waiving their fees, which is really kind of them, and trying to just offer placements to students who had had their internship experiences canceled and were searching for a new one. So I, just in the moment, emailed them, reached out, explained my situation, and luckily I was just one of the first students to do so. So they were really kind, and they got me a placement with an organization based in Prague in the Czech Republic called Sherpa's Ride. Sherpa's Ride is a really unique organization. It was such a fun experience, nothing that I would have seen coming, but just because they are a ski tourism company, not something I'm familiar with beforehand, but now I have experience with that. So it's just a small group of guys that had started this company just because free ride skiing was their greatest passion in life, and they just knew this is what they wanted to do. So they took initiative and created their own companies so that they could lead these free ride ski expeditions, which if you're like me and didn't know much about skiing prior to this experience, free ride skiing is where rather than like going to a resort and skiing on like preset slopes and stuff, it's a little bit more like back roads, adventurous, it's kind of, I think, more for people who are seeking the adrenaline rush, which not me personally, but so just really unique organization. It's really cool to see, people find their passion and find a way to make that their career. It was just a really fun group of guys to work with. So I got placed with them, and just thinking a little bit about the pros and cons of the experience, or just a virtual internship experience in general. I think it's really important to understand that, every internship is going to be different, right? You can't really pigeonhole them. They can all look different. And especially this one was unique due to the fact that it wasn't really planned. They were so kind to work with the European Study Abroad Center and set up this virtual internship position for me that they hadn't initially planned to have an intern with them for the summer. So we were kind of working in real time together to figure out like what my roles would be and what responsibilities I would have, and what I could help them with. So one of the challenges that we kind of faced was just having limited contact available because it was a remote position. I was not in Prague and I don't speak Czech. So we were feeling out in real time, like how can I assist them without, being in their way? And it was very much a pretty hands-off, independent position, which for me was I think that was probably the biggest takeaway and growth experience I got from my virtual internship. It might not be the same for you depending on where you get a virtual internship or what the organization, what their culture is kind of like. But for me, it's a smaller team, they have a lot that they need to get done. So they're like, we have stuff you can help us with. We'd love it if you can kind of structure your time on your own, create your own schedule, work pretty independently from us. So like contact wise, I think I had one actual like video call with my bosses throughout the summer. It was an 8-week internship. And other than that, we mainly communicated over email. So, you know, that can be viewed as a challenge, but it can also be viewed as a positive thing. I think it all depends on your perspective. Sometimes, you know, there's delayed response times if you're working in a position with an international aspect to it. You know, my team was working in Prague time, I was working in Milwaukee time. So you learn to adapt to that. But I think the biggest takeaway or like positive takeaway I found was just the flexibility of a virtual position. And if you ask other people who worked remotely this summer, they might agree. You know, like one of the best parts of the position was I could wake up in the morning, make myself a cup of coffee, grab my laptop and go sit out on my back porch and do my work, you know, with the sun and the wind. And it was just so relaxing. So it's just, you know, I think virtual positions are unique opportunities, but it's nice to find the parts of them that you wouldn't really be able to experience if you were working in person. So like, I think in general, a lot of us prefer working in person, but it's good to find the aspects that are unique to them. And the flexibility is really, really something to appreciate. And that kind of takes me into my main piece of advice, I would say, is identify what works best for you. Find out how you feel like you work with the most productivity, how you can focus best, you know, figure out how to schedule your time so that you feel like you're getting your work done, and building a space for yourself that's really helpful to help you get your work done. You know, like it's easy when you're working from home virtually, if you have family members or roommates or siblings, you know, there's distractions. So just establishing a good space for yourself to help you focus and like settle in and be like, okay, I'm at my internship now. That is definitely, I think, really important to establish for yourself, and just knowing how you like to manage your time. So, you know, main takeaways, kind of like what Alex said, I think in our current state in the world, it's just really important to go in with an open mindset and be adaptable. Your internship experience might be a little bit different than what you had originally anticipated pre-COVID, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just different. So, you know, be adaptable, be open to it, and you're going to do great.
Okay, I'm on. All right, thank you, Sophia, and to all the presenters for sharing. We're now going to open up the discussion for questions. As a reminder, if you have any questions, whether it's directly to one of the presenters or about internships in general, you can either type them in the chat box or use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Dr. Black had to leave because of an unstable internet connection, but we can definitely pass any questions along to her. And then Christine will be the one to moderate the questions.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Wolf, Assistant Director of Global and International Studies. Thank you all for your presentations. It's really been interesting to hear about all the opportunities that exist and from our students about their experiences interning virtually. I'd like to ask our employers, are you looking for any particular majors or special skill sets for the internships that you talked about today?
Hey. I would say as it relates to Black Lens, I think we have a list of sort of qualifications and skills on our sort of official, I don't know, application or, you know, job duties and responsibilities document, right? But I would say this, to be quite honest, communication is, whether it's writing, verbal communication, the ability to speak to people through, like I said, a written email, a conversation, that is an invaluable skill set that I think we both would love for someone to have, but it doesn't have to be perfected. They don't have to be a master of it, because what I'm hoping is that we can help develop that skill set as well. So I would say someone that is looking to develop that skill set, but has some pieces already in place that we can just help maybe mentor and take to the next level. So communication skills.
I think that's a really important point, of course, that an internship is a professional development and work experience, but it's also a learning opportunity. And so there's a role to play for employers in helping to develop certain skill sets as well. Thank you. I'm just also wondering from our employers, if you could talk to us a little bit about what the challenges and the opportunities are that you see in the virtual space for internships.
Hi, I'll just answer, if I can answer your last question first, just briefly, and then I'll transition into the second one. If I can remember it by the time I'm done, we'll see. But to start, one thing I'll mention about the internship opportunity at 16th Street is that obviously as a clinic that serves patients we have a traditional medical setting, and so we work with doctors and medical assistants, and people who are interested in those career paths certainly would find a great fit in this position. But additionally, the language and the setup of this internship is not highly technical. Our conversations with patients are much more conversational in nature, and we have a lot more opportunity to learn about relationships with other community organizations, and to really get an idea of the resources that are available to patients outside of a traditional medical setting. So someone who could be a good fit for this position isn't necessarily someone who's only interested in pursuing a traditional medical path, but rather someone who's interested in learning more about community connections and relationship building with patients and the community. And now for the second question, which
opportunities or challenges that you anticipate for interns working in the virtual space?
Yes, that's something we've definitely had to think about for this internship position. There is an aspect of relationship building that's much more difficult to do in a virtual setting rather than as an in-person connection with someone. And so that's a question that we have had to think a lot about for this position. What are we losing in this transition from an in-person model to a more virtual model where we're making phone calls or video calls to patients as with our patient screeners? We haven't totally solved that issue. We know that it's something that that can make it more difficult to connect to a patient. And so really from an intern, we're looking to further that conversation. How can we best connect with patients when we know that connecting in virtual spaces sometimes can feel more removed or less personal or less confidential. Those are all really great conversations to start. And an intern can definitely be a part of contributing to that and continuing to figure out what is the best way for us to make these connections.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. And to our student panelists, piggybacking on that, what did you feel was the greatest opportunity in your virtual internship? Perhaps something you hadn't anticipated, something you hadn't counted on. What do you think was the best takeaway from it?
Yeah, I guess I can answer that. I briefly mentioned this in my little spiel. Using your network. I definitely get kind of hesitant to use my dad or any other family member or friends when I'm, looking for help or looking for a job like that. So it definitely was for the better, right? It definitely benefited me in finding my internship. But then once a part of it it expanded my network greatly. And it's really awesome to see who I'm now connecting with and who I can go to in the future, and other opportunities and things like that. So that's definitely a big takeaway, and something I also would just recommend, just really embracing of building your network. And it's okay if it is family or friends. It's not just limited to that, because from there it expands even further. So networking.
Yeah, that family and friends network is often where it all starts. And how about you, Sophia?
Oh, forgot my video's off. Hi. On a slightly different note, but definitely agreed. Networking is something I think a lot of us are a little bit scared of, but it's really important. So getting past that initial hesitancy and recognizing that it can really take you places, very important. For me, I think the biggest takeaway was probably gaining experience working remotely. I've been working remotely both in the internship and also for my job here at Global Studies. And I think that is just a really important skill to develop if you can, because it's very much becoming common practice and probably is not going away anytime soon. So gaining that experience has been really invaluable to me.
Great, thank you. I don't think we have any new questions in the chat. So just one more thing I'd like to ask our student panelists in particular, given the experience you had as kind of a crop of pioneer students performing virtual internships at, in a time of crisis and where it wasn't something that people were very familiar with, in terms of format and how to do it well. I'm wondering what you might say to our employers on the call today about what really worked well for you and what you feel employers could do to help to make the internship everything it can be, particularly in the remote space.
I think something that I thought went really well with my employer, was one, okay, so losing the face-to-face interaction is definitely hard for a lot of people. And as we both, Sophia and I mentioned, it does get harder. But I think something I would, say that employers could do is do as much as they can to kind of give that face-to-face interaction, like interact with your interns more, whether it is emails or video chats or things like that. And I think that definitely benefits us to make us feel that not only are we doing like the work and we're involved, but it brings those connections to the best of the ability, like without being face to face. I definitely think feeling connected to your employers is really important. So just interacting a lot more is really helpful and beneficial for us.
Mm-hmm. It seems like, communication is so important all the time anyway, but especially when we're working differently, that we have to, pay attention to how often and the quality of those communications too, to make sure nothing gets lost. Sophia, yeah, exactly. Sophia, what about you?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I feel like the most valuable thing you could probably do is establish check-ins with each other and like establish a system of contact so it feels like you're making sure that every once in a while you're just letting each other know where you're both at with the projects you're working on, and just kind of making sure everybody's on the same page, because it's pretty easy to lose that communication when you're working virtually. But if you can just make a point to check in with each other, it can really make a world of a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Does anybody else have any last remarks that they would like to add before we wrap up this afternoon? Well, hearing none, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us today. I know Amy would like to say a few words too, but thanks so much.
Before we end the webinar, we want to thank our panelists, Gerard, Dr. Angela Black, Anna, Alex, and Sophia, as well as thanking all of our participants for attending and contributing their questions. We hope this event was beneficial to you all. And Rachel will be sharing and posting this webinar with all of our contact information in case you missed anything. And feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any further questions. Thank you all for participating, and we hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you.